Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations, while we're still experiencing Shadow Generations for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, Nintendo Switch, plus Nintendo Switch 2, all thanks to backwards compatibility has already been confirmed. So, last time, we essentially did manage able to tackle for some more challenge acts, and this time we ended up in Kingdom Valley alongside with Sunset Heights when it comes to those challenge acts, and meanwhile also for the fact that in addition to trying to able to obtain some more concept arts alongside with some music and stuff like that due to the forms of those specific bells that we do need to activate for. In addition to that, we also did manage able to occasionally trying to grab some more pages for Gerald's journal, and finally, most notably though, is about the fact that we did somehow manage able to deal out with the forms of the next boss in the game, which appears to be Metal Overlord from Sonic Heroes. So, except this time is about the fact that we're no longer going to become Super Shadow or Super Sonic for that particular battle, because thanks to the forms of Doom Surf, this means we can able to actually kick his butt no matter what. So, despite it did took me about a couple of tries to do, especially I was trying to go and aim for, you know, all the S ranks on this run through, so but I digress. So today for this video, and speaking of which though, we also did manage to able to learn the next Doom power, and that's what appears to be Doom Morph, which I suppose we should probably save that particular topic of this once we're able to dive into this next stage right here. And speaking of which, today for this video is that we're about to be exploring into the next stage, which fundamentally speaking though, this stage right here was actually based off from Sonic Frontiers, believe it or not. Because I was assuming for the fact that despite the fact that Shadow was never appeared in Sonic Frontiers, but so much so for the fact that we're going to be diving into this particular stage anyway, for the sake of the forms of how the fact that Shadow has never experienced this island before, and this particular island right here looks a bit familiar to you, doesn't it? Well, it's actually we're going to be going to Chaos Island, based off from the third island from Sonic Frontiers, where usually Sonic needs to be able to rescue Cyber Tails during the forms of that particular island, and is also the most infamous island to me though, just because of not only you have to go from island to island, but it's also about the fact that it's filled to the brim with a lot of like, well, let's just say a lot of rail grinding, and on top of all that stuff though, it actually contains the most frustrating section in Chaos Island, which appears to be the pinball table. But thankfully though, in Shadow Generations, that's not the case, because obviously the entire stage involves around you to able to actually utilize with the forms of Doom Morph. And basically though, it's about the fact that that is when you might able to realize that learning curve is obviously a key factor at this point when it comes to trying to able to pull off certain cool tricks and stuff when it comes to utilizing with Doom Morph. So basically though, what happens was though, is that similar to the forms of how it does it, remember the forms of those game series, which appears to be Splatoon, likely Splatoon 1, 2, and 3, basically though is about the fact that if you dare manage to walk onto a specific paint, you can able to actually turn yourself into an ink squid. So basically, that's basically the Sonic's version of Splatoon in a nutshell, where basically though is about the fact that you somehow traverse into a multitude of inkling stuff, or specifically slimy stuff, and then as soon as you're able to actually homing attack into one of those little ball variations of that particular slimy stuff, you instantly turn into Doom Morph, and as a result though, you somehow became a squid, and so much so for the fact that we can able to actually do all sorts of stuff, ranging from going from ceilings to walls to solid ground, and not to mention though, there was that particular trick I was talking about earlier, or should I say ever since Enjoying Evolves have been yesterday actually. There's this technique called you can able to actually fling yourself upwards, but here's the catch though, if you try to hold down the jump button while doing this process, if you cling onto something, basically it just somehow takes you to, you know, straight up, likely also for the sake of 180-degree turn or something like that. And then as soon as you're able to cling onto something while you're in Doom Morph mode, basically though, you can able to actually do a timing system, where basically though is about the fact that if you do manage to able to try to get those specific collectibles, like for instance though, that I accidentally missed one of those collectibles, but there was that one specific challenge act, you might able to actually realize that not only does it contain one, but two collection keys that we do need to able to get at some point. So yeah, for the most part though, this stage is not so much of a challenge. Although the only time is a little bit tricky to me though, is that whenever I managed able to first experience this stage, specifically on the Switch version, I almost got myself my glorious S rank until I've realized about the fact that, as I said before, Chaos Control, alongside with the forms of taking alternate pathways, is obviously a key factor when it comes to able to actually achieving yourself, you know, the S ranks to begin with. So, but for the most part though, yeah, it's actually kind of a cool level to me though, but I will admit it though right away though, some people might find this to be kind of a disappointing stage for some people, mainly because of heavily utilizing with the forms of Doom Morph ability, which, again, as long as you're able to get your learning curve going, then you should able to actually do this level just fine. But, and also you do realize about the fact that with that lava section, as we somehow already went into earlier, well, thankfully though, unlike in Sonic Frontiers, where if you somehow accidentally touch the lava, that instantly kills you, whilst in Shadow Generations though, that's not the case, because all you're simply able to actually come across into is that you get hit, and you lose rings in the process. So, but anyways, that's it for Act 1. Self-explanatory right here, especially, again, it's a good thing I did manage to practice this stage on my spare own time for a bit, so that way I can able to actually guarantee to get myself my glorious, fantastic S rank in the process. So, here we go, on to Act 2 in Chaos Island. Now, out of all of the actual stages in Shadow Generations to me though, Act 2 of Chaos Island is perhaps one of my least favorite stages in the game. Although, what's cool about this stage to me though is that, as you can see in the background, we can able to actually see that familiar set piece, which appears to be this hot springs right there. So that actually represents about the fact that Chaos Island is filled to the brim with a lot of lava-y stuff. Or sometimes though about the fact that one of those islands in particular does manage to contain a blizzard side of things if you go onto the actual mountain summit or something like that, at least in one of those islands. Well, mind you about the fact that it's been about 2 years ago almost since I actually have last touched upon Sonic Frontiers, since on the PlayStation 4 or Nintendo Switch version, although I will promise you guys I will get back onto the Xbox One version at some point if I decide able to actually finish this game first. Or, suffice to say, that we can able to actually discuss upon the forms of today's discussion at some form or another. So, and I think, fundamentally speaking, it was about the fact that this will be the only level we can able to go into. But not just that, however, though. I think it is definitely possible we can able to actually tackle through the next boss fight as well. So, yeah, that could be a possibility, well, usually for the sake of this whole process as far as this is going, so. But anyways, so, yeah, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 4th of February today, in some cases in 2025 today, and as I mentioned this before, I was originally trying to able to discuss upon the financial results for the actual sales numbers for Nintendo Switch, alongside with certain Nintendo Switch games at some point, but as I mentioned this before, it's probably best if we save that particular topic and join at some point until tomorrow, which is Wednesday. So for the time being though, there are some other topics I would like to point out. Well, luckily though, since I've already mentioned about this before, since in about a couple of days ago or something like that, or technically Blaze has already mentioned about that since in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games on the DS version, then obviously that was about the fact that I did manage to able to double check on 2 of those movies that we somehow got from Apple TV application. That's what appears to be Pokemon the Movie 8, alongside with the forms of Movie 9. And luckily though, all of those films that we somehow got are English dubs, because I was assuming for the fact that I'm almost gonna get myself screwed over by accidentally got myself the Japanese dub version of Pokemon the Movie 9, but luckily though, that does not seem to be the case. So anyway, and as you can see, the main gimmick about this act right here is that we have to hop onto that particular up and down kind of elevation platform in order to able to go from place to place and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll talk more about that particular, well, gimmick once we're able to get into the challenge acts for later. But for the time being though, I get the feeling there's going to be a cutscene, and suffice to say, this particular cutscene coming up is easily the best cutscene in the whole entire package.
I found you, Shadow!
The blue hedgehog, of all places.
You have something I need.
You can wait until my business is finished.
Yeah, sorry, but that Chaos Emerald and I have a date with a monster.
Well then, it'll be a date to die for.
Nice hustle, but I won this one. So I'm taking the emerald. See ya!
I finally find you, and what do I see? Sonic defeating you. What happened?
I will beat him on equal terms, or not at all.
A fine time for you to be honorable. Now he has the Chaos Emerald.
No, he has a fake emerald. I'll have you swap it for the real thing after I'm finished with my mission.
Wow, look at you. As a professional jewel thief, I approve.
No matter what though, that particular cutscene alone does have some familiar references from not only from Sonic Adventure 2 in terms of the forms of dialogue, but also with Sonic Heroes as well. In addition to that though, we ended up back in the forms of Final Rush for one of those scenes in particular, when Sonic, specifically Modern Sonic, is actually going to be face off against with Shadow. But I really do wish if there was going to be a boss battle like this though, but I guess beggars can't be choosers, and instead they turn into a cutscene instead of the actual proper boss battle, just because of Sonic Generations logic. So because of that though, we still ended up lost in it at the end. Well, usually what I was a little bit crazy about that scene is that somehow that Shadow did manage able to have the real yellow Chaos Emeralds, whilst meanwhile for Sonic, that he somehow managed able to got the fake one, which I was like, wait a second, I wonder if imagine about the fact that if Classic Sonic or Modern Sonic were able to actually face off against with Time Meter and stuff, then if they somehow accidentally got one fake Chaos Emerald before they decided to turn into super versions of themselves, maybe it will not work out. I'm guessing that that particular logic for that side of things though, that I do know for the fact that there was actually a short compilation that has already existence, which appears to be Sonic Shorts Volume 10, thanks to the Forms of Sonic Paradox YouTube channel. If you guys want to check it out, then you can. Then obviously that was about the fact that, yeah, it will not work as well if they have the fake emerald. So maybe potentially for the fact that, well, we're probably not going to explain things too much about it though, because as you can see, we ended up being involved in the underground segment of this particular white space itself, and so much so we meet again with the boss gate, and yet again is about the fact that the challenge acts will now start to appear, although now it's going to be most likely in Chaos Island. So, yeah, remember that particular boss keys that we somehow collected so far? Usually so far we actually got 2 of them. Well, guess what though? We need another 2 to be able to actually get ourselves to guaranteed to reach for about approximately 4 boss keys in order to be able to actually access the next boss. So, yeah, it seems kind of crazy, all things considered. So, but like I said before, it's about the fact that we're pretty much almost done in terms of those normal challenge acts. Although I'm sure enough though, there's going to be more to it than that later on though. So yeah, there's that other segment. If you really want to come back there again, then by all means you can do that. So, and if you want to get out of here in the actual well, then obviously though there's that switch that you can only trigger by using the Doom Spear to able to actually, you know, activate that switch. So, anyway, so for the time being though, let's just go ahead and try to tackle for one of those challenges now in white space, because now we somehow learned the ability to use Doom Morph by simply collecting some more rings. So, anyways though, there's also another thing else I would like to mention about this though, is about the fact that Cap King 74, usually for Stuart anyway, that he's now on to episode 100 in terms of the forms of Xenoblade Chronicles, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, because as far as at this point in time, that he's now going to be tackling through Future Connected. So, yeah, I got nothing else to say about this, I guess. So, either way, so let's get on to the forms of those challenge acts right now. And I believe the first one out of the bunch, though, we can able to do in Chaos Island, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that we have to utilize with the Doom Morph. Now, as far as for that particular technique, like I mentioned this before, well, usually when we're able to actually make our way to other collectibles, like collection keys, although the first one is not that big of a deal, because you simply have to make your big jump right there. Now, as far as the other two, though, you have to do with that particular technique. And basically, though, what happens was, though, pay attention right here, hold down the jump button, and then let go as soon as you're able to go underneath that particular object. So, yeah, you see what I mean? Because, again, it does encourage you to do a lot of learning curve once you try to able to go for 100% completion, especially if you try to go after any other collection chests or collection boxes, whatever you want to call them. So, either way, that's something to keep in mind. So, but I digress. So, although I was originally, however, though, that I was originally trying to able to actually get myself one of those episodes from Apple TV, which appears to be Tiny Toon Adventures, which appears to be involved around, let's just say, a parody of certain TV commercials, because I do notice there was actually a Mario reference on that particular episode. So because of that, though, usually involves around Plucky, which appears to be like a Tiny Toon version of Daffy Duck, at least for I've noticing that already. And so much so for the fact I found that particular reference very fascinating to me, especially it's almost like a huge parody of the forms of the original Super Mario Brothers, and basically that was about the fact that with all that setting, with the Mushroom Kingdom and all that stuff, it's kind of weird about the fact that they never actually brought the Sonic the Hedgehog reference in that particular cartoon show. But as far as I do heard about the fact that some people seem to suggest me to able to actually stay away from the likes of the forms of the reboot series for some odd reason, mainly because, well, suffice to say though, much like the forms of how it does it for the Powerpuff Girls in 2016, obviously though, there are a lot of fans out there tend to able to stay away from the rebooted version of those specific cartoons they obviously really do enjoy back in the day. So suffice to say though, I can honestly agree with any other aspects. Like for instance though, we really do enjoy so far in terms of the original Powerpuff Girls and the Tiny Toon Adventures from 1990 and stuff like that, which again, concerning for the fact that the actual series of Tiny Toon Adventures is about to be celebrating its 35th anniversary until I have no idea when that's going to turn out to be though, but suffice to say though, for I've noticed on the rebooted series, which appears to be Tiny Toon University or something like that, basically though is about the fact that it just has like smallest amount, or should I say smallest quantity of episodes, and suffice to say though, there's a good thing about the fact that I'm probably not going to miss out on much. So, although there's one particular character I do find it to be very, very adorable and cute, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I can totally see why in DeviantArt, alongside with the forms of other social media, they seem to able to find one of the characters in particular from Tiny Toon Adventures to be a lot more adorable and cute at the same time. And she does have a French accent, which you probably already know what I'm talking about. That's what appears to be Phoebe La Fume. So, yeah, because I could totally see why that's a lot of people out there seem to able to do adore her, which it feels kind of similar situation as the forms of one of those characters from Looney Tunes, what I've noticed, but that'll be a topic for later time. So anyway, the next thing I want to discuss upon actually, speaking of which, in regards to the forms of Looney Tunes and all that stuff, unfortunately though, multiverses will eventually going to be shut down during at some point by the end of May in 2025. So much so about the fact that the actual, I'm guessing it's probably due to the fact that the actual, well, I don't know if online features or just any other parts for that matter, but I do know for certain for one thing is about the fact that the final 2 characters is going to be making on its way on Season 5 in terms of multiverses, and that's what it appears to be. Not only Aquaman from the likes of the forms of the DC universe, but alongside with that, there's also going to be the yet another playable character from the Looney Tunes continuity, which appears to be Lola Bunny, which, as a result, basically Bugs Bunny's love interest. So, but I digress. So, and no matter what though, it's about the fact that after that particular season is about to end, well, it looks like about the fact that until the 30th of May on 2025, obviously the multiverses is going to be shutting down. Although it did say about the fact that the offline play will continue to be available after this date. So, no matter what though, it's about the fact that it's hard for me to explain of what's going to happen next for that point. Especially concerning for the fact I still haven't exactly got myself the actual game on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One versions. Plus, it's mainly because, as far as I'm aware, I'm just basically trying to able to actually saving up for, you know what I'm saying, with Nintendo Switch 2 and all that jazz. So, I digress. So, and also, another thing else I would like to point out, it looks like about the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog 3, you know, with the movie that we keep on and on about in the past few days, well, I'm happy to report that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie has recently become the second highest grossing video game movie ever. So, no matter what though, it's actually now on to $460 million worldwide globally. So, yeah, that's actually very fantastic to me, especially concerning for the fact I still cannot wait to able to try to get the film on DVD and Blu-ray. Although I was originally trying to able to get that on Apple TV as well, but I suddenly realized about the fact that our gigabyte storage is almost running low at this point, which is especially noticeable concerning for the fact that we always attempt able to use the phone of ours to able to actually do a lot of filming setups when it comes to unboxing videos alongside with the forms of some other stuff as usual. So yeah, you get the idea of how the fact that the entire gigabyte storages can be felt a bit problematic for some models of certain phones. That's what I can really think about that. As long as about the fact that, well, if you try to go after the latest ones, it does have a lot better capacity with gigabyte storages alike. So yeah, congratulations to you, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, because you are certainly deserve, you know, the actual second place award, or in some cases you're now in second place in terms of, you know, highest grossing video game movies of all time for its box office department, although still that the Super Mario Bros. Movie is still on top, and I'm pretty much not surprised if, imagine if Minecraft the movie will basically come on top if that comes out until at some point on April. And in fact, no matter what though, we've only got about 2 more months left until, well, Minecraft the movie is going to be on its way, alongside with the forms of, as I said before, the Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo Direct. So, yeah, I'm still very curious to know what the games library will involve surrounding for, especially concerning for the fact I'm just very curious to know of the actual third-party supportive stuff they're able to actually bring us into. So, but anyways though, folks, we actually got every single boss keys right now, so this means we must able to actually head our way back to that particular underground segment. You can either decide able to go and do it normally, or my personal favorite is by trying to find the actual bottom of the well, and so much so we can able to actually get to this point a lot more quicker. So I would say I'm also able to go on to the normal route again, so just in case about the fact I just want able to attempt to do it normally, I guess. So But anyways though, oh yeah, speaking of which, in terms of the forms of Nintendo Switch in general, I get the feeling about the fact that Nintendo has officially announced there's going to be a big changes to Nintendo eShop before Nintendo Switch 2's release. And I think it could be something to do with the forms of credit cards and stuff like that. Like, for instance, though, they did say on the article, they did state about the fact that Nintendo eShop and My Nintendo Store for Japan to no longer accept credit cards issued overseas and PayPal accounts opened overseas. So, and they did somehow manage able to address two different things in particular, which I'm afraid to tell you for this point, guys, I don't think it's possible we can able to discuss upon it right now, because, well, as you can tell, we somehow used all 4 of these remaining keys to able to actually access to the next boss in the game. So, yeah, I wonder what the next boss are we going to be faced up against, I wonder. So,
What is this? A seal of some sort?
well, what do we have here? We have Mephiles the Dark, based off from Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. So, and obviously though, if you couldn't tell from the environment, that obviously takes place in Dusty Desert, in some cases Shadow's final stage, in Shadow's story. So it makes sense to able to actually try to face off against with him during the forms of in Dusty Desert, because I was assuming it's going to take place in Flame Core, but because back in Sonic 06, that not only does Shadow able to try to deal with the forms of Mephiles, but save lives with E123 Omega, and yeah, that seems kind of interesting knowledge for the sake of time. So, but anyways, here we go with the forms of Mephiles the Dark, and except the fact that no matter what though, much like the forms of how it does it for Black Doom, obviously though, that Mephiles' voice has also been changed, so it's no longer Dan Green, unlike the forms of how it does it back in Sonic 06, that Dan Green, who attempt able to actually voice Mephiles the Dark, which also same applies with Knuckles as well, during the forms of in the 4Kids voice cast. So, anyways, here we go with the actual battle itself. Now, thankfully though, the entire battle is actually a lot funner in comparison to the forms of Sonic 06 counterparts, where basically though, on the first phase of the battle, where basically though is about the fact you have to dodge his attacks, and once the actual little purple blob stuff decides to show up, is your chance able to actually turn into Doom Morph. And then every once in a while though, there's going to be a multitude of clones of Mephiles that you have to use Chaos Spears to able to actually not only try to get some more rings for, just try to survive in the actual battle, but occasionally though, it's about the fact that your Chaos Control gauge will decide to fill up at one point. So, and here we go on to the next phase of the battle, where you have to utilize that similar technique as we've already accomplished ever since in one of the challenge acts, in particular in Chaos Island. So, oh geez, we have to deal with the forms of this demon stuff. However though, thankfully though, it's nowhere near as like extremely wonky to try to deal with this thing, unlike the forms of how it does in Sonic 06, because you know, Sonic 06 was very unpolished, and so much so about the fact that that is when, you know, Doom Morph decides to come into play and able to take this guy down. Well, usually you have to stay away from that particular marker right there, so just in case you don't want to get hit. So yeah, just try to immediately dash away from it. And also occasionally though, we can able to actually use Chaos Control as well, to able to actually just try to stop time at one point. But I attempt able to try to deal with him anyway, without using Chaos Control, apart from this part, where we need to find the real Mephiles the Dark, and then once we've done that, well, that's it. Aside from the fact that there are some quick time events, well, there's only one quick time event we can able to learn for, so yeah, all in all, a pretty cool boss fight, especially it's pretty cool to see Mephiles the Dark again, unlike the forms of how it does it from, well, I don't think we can able to actually come across into Infinite or anything else like that, so either way, that's it for Mephiles the Dark.
There is no future for you. Ever.
And quick thing to know about the fact that it's probably best if we leave the Scepter of Darkness behind, so just in case we're not gonna destroy it, because otherwise, if we accidentally destroy that thing, obviously though Mephiles the Dark will somehow trigger this complicated timeline again or something like that. So, yeah, there you go folks, so that pretty much does it for, as I said before, Mephiles the Dark. So you know what that means? I believe we're now on to the final stretch in terms of the story progression, so I guess no matter what though, something bad is about to happen, although, first things first though, we can able to actually get ourselves the final Doom gear, so this means we can able to actually learn the final Doom power we can able to learn, so, oh jeez, I wonder what's gonna happen right now with this mysterious little Doom's Eye kind of planet or something like that, with rings and everything, so, oh boy.
Don't be frightened. The promised time is nigh upon us, Shadow. Soon, you will be mine.
Shadow will never serve you. He's nothing like you.
Gerald may have given him this unassuming form, but the blood of the Black Arms flows in his veins. He is a warrior, a destroyer.
Yes, the warrior that will destroy you.
I have learned from our last encounter. There will be no mistakes this time. Struggle all you want. You will be mine.
Professor, what do you think he means he learned from our last encounter?
I surmise you defeated him at some point in the future. He has grown a new body and used the nebulous nature of time in white space to accelerate his plans for revenge.
He's right. No more mistakes. This time, I will crush every last one of them.
Shadow, no!
Maria?
It breaks my heart to see you so full of anger. This isn't who you are. Do you know why I named you Shadow? Because without light, there's only darkness. But a shadow will show you where to find the light. Do you understand? I don't want you to be driven by darkness. I want you to be happy. Stand in the light with peace in your heart.
So yeah, we ended up back right in front of the Forms of Sunset Heights, because again, there's going to be a lot of interactions with Maria and Gerald Robotnik, because like I said before, those two are also important to Shadow's life. So, and also what's kind of feels a bit interesting is about the fact that Rouge the Bat has now appeared right in front of the Forms of the entrance to Chaos Island, especially concerning we've got the rest of the Team Dark crew has been reignited again, although it's only Shadow who's able to actually do most of this stuff anyway, so but I digress. Now, technically the final thing I want to discuss upon today, that's what it appears to be for the fact that, well, it looks like we actually did manage to receive the next Nintendo 64 game onto the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, and that game is in questioning is Ridge Racer 64. So much so for the fact that that game has now been available for, well, it's been out for a while, since by the end of January actually, which I suppose I honestly totally forgot to mention about up until now anyway, so, yeah, I just want to make sure if I don't missing something, so, yeah, I think this should be good to go for this point, so, anyway, so we somehow made our way back to that familiar territory with Chaos Island, so to speak. And as you can see, we've somehow made our way to the final Doom power we can able to learn. So either way, suffice to say for this point, folks, is that we get endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations while we're still playing through Shadow Generations. Is that, suffice to say, in terms of the main story, we might able to come across into the end game in terms of story. So yeah, this will be interesting. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.